Hello everybody, welcome to Best of British Blackwell. Thanks for joining us again. Welcome to all our new subscribers and all the people that are following us on our Facebook page. Details of our Facebook page are going to be below. We're starting to build up a bit of a following, which is, I'm really quite proud of that, so thank you guys for your support. Today we're going to be making a classic quiche. We're going to be making a bacon and leek quiche. My nan used to work in the catering industry and she was absolutely fantastic at making this type of dish. She'd make it for all kind of special occasions and she'd just make them whenever she had any leftover pastry as well. So I'm going to show you her recipe, really simple to make. Come over and have a look at the ingredients and we'll get going. Here we have our ingredients, really simple to make. And also you don't have to just stick to these ingredients. Basically in a quiche you can put anything you want. I'm going to be using some bacon. These are chopped smoked bacon lardons. There's 200 grams in there. There's a whole leek that's been chopped quite fine in there. I'm not using onion. You can use onion. You could use spring onion. You could use shallots if you wanted to. Also, just for a little bit of colour as well, there is some diced orange pepper in there. We've got some short crust pastry. Here, this is left over from the pie that I made a couple of weeks ago. That's been in the freezer, that's thawed out and brought down to room temperature. We've got 3 eggs, I've got some single cream, and I've got some double cream. The only other last thing, pepper. You won't need any salt because you've got a lot of salt in this bacon. The last thing that we're going to use is some butter just to line our dishes. So we're going to start by prepping our pastry first because it needs to be blind baked. So let's start with that and then we'll work on to the other ingredients. First step in prepping our pastry is to get some margarine or some butter. Get yourself a piece of kitchen roll there, give it a rub into the margarine, and now start to work it in and around the sides and the outside of your quiche dish. Now this quiche dish here, I'm using, this could be nearly 50 years old. This used to belong to my nan and she would always use this. I seem to have inherited it, so I'll be using this today. But also because I've got quite a lot of pastry and a lot of filling to use, I'm going to be making some mini quiches which you can leave in the fridge and have for lunch or take to work. So again, it's that whole thing about not wasting any ingredients and making sure that you use absolutely everything. Okay, just placing your dishes to one side for the moment. Let's get our flour sorted. A little bit of flour on a nice clean work surface, much like it was for the pie that we made. Put your flour on there, give it a decent coat so it doesn't stick, coat all the sides and so on. Now what we want to do is start dividing this up. So most of this is going to go into large circular one, and that's the one that we're going to concentrate on now. Our other dishes are for any excess that we have. So with this, because it's a circular dish, what I'm going to do is try and get it into a circular shape straight away and start to roll this out. That's not a bad start, I'm quite happy with that. Let's grab our rolling pin. A little bit of flour on the rolling pin, fill your gaps, start to roll this out. Okay, I would say that is about the size that we need for this particular quiche dish that we've got. Plus we're going to make sure that we pad out the bottom of this with the excess. So take the pastry, much like we did for the pie, make sure that it's filling all of the inside of the dish, and you want to get it into all of the nice crevices that we've got here. Give it a nice good tuck in. Now what we're also going to do is supplement the pastry at the bottom with some of the pastry from around the sides here. So after you've made sure it's all tucked in, because we're blind baking this and it's short crust pastry, you can just start to cut the excess off of the sides. That's lovely. Now what you want to do is fill 4 sections of the pastry where you think it's a bit thin. And then what you can do when you find a thin piece of the pastry is literally take a piece of your other pastry and tuck it in there. You can wash that down with some egg white as well to keep it in place. Actually, this is filled quite nicely. So what I'm going to do with this is set it to one side and fill the others up. Now we're done with filling the pastry dishes. All we need to do is blind bake these out. Now, what I tend to do is get some tin foil, some aluminium foil, and then I tend to place it inside this dish here so it doesn't burn the pastry. It gives it a little bit of protection, but it also conducts quite a lot of the heat. Now you'll see people using baking beads and all kinds of tricks to get the inside of the pastry cooked. But actually with a quiche, you don't need to worry about that too much, because you're going to be cooking this a second time with a nice wet filling inside it. So you're just looking to just about cook the pastry. You don't need anything putting pressure on it or baking beads or anything like that, because the actual filling of the quiche is going to help you with that. So don't worry about that too much. If you don't have any baking beads, don't go out of your way to use them. Just fill them up with tin foil, cover them over, just like that. And what you need to do with these is get them in the oven on about 180 degrees for about 15 minutes. Second part of this cook, once we've got the pastry in there blind baking, is to get a nice hot pan and get our bacon pieces, our lardons, in there to fry off. Now you're not looking to cook these or get too much kind of browning on there. You just want to cook these through kind of 3/4 of the way. If you overcook these now and char them, they're going to add a really bitter taste to your quiche. The bacon is cooked through quite nicely now, so what we're going to do is get some kitchen foil, put it on the side here, and just start getting this bacon out of the pan. Let it soak off. You don't want it too greasy, just because we're already going to be adding this to the eggs and the cheese, and that's going to create its own kind of fat. But what you do want to do is leave the lovely juices in the pan, so that when you finish taking the bacon out, you put it back on the heat, you add in your leeks. Like I said, you can use onions or shallots here, and then you add in your peppers, and you start to fry those out as well. I would recommend turning the heat down a little bit so that you don't burn these. You just blanch them off, get them that lovely kind of translucent, soft texture, and then they're ready to go too. Leeks and peppers are done. As you can see, they've softened really nicely. All we're going to do now is get our bacon. You can add it all together. This is not on the heat anymore, so it's not cooking anymore. We'll take that away. We'll just give it a nice good mix. It's better to mix it up here because you're going to be spooning this into your pastry cases soon enough anyway, so give it a good mix. And it's at this stage here that I like to add some seasoning, so I'm going to add some black pepper. Okay, so our blind baking is done. As you can see, the pastry is not cooked all the way through, and you know, we have had a little bit of sinking there, which I suppose if you had, you know, put some baking beads in there, you would have avoided. But you know what, this is home cooking. It's not supposed to be perfect, it's supposed to be tasty, so that will do for me. What we do is now we set this aside to cool. We don't want to add anything too hot in that. Now we're going to start with our egg and cream mixture. So 3 eggs, not cracking them very well, I must add. 3 eggs into a mixing bowl. I'm not going to use a whisk here, I'm going to use a fork, because it's actually a lot easier to whisk an egg in a mixing bowl with a fork than it is with anything else. Give that a really good mix. Now we add into this mixture around about 150 mils of double cream and around 300 mils of single cream. All we do now is give that a stir. Now our pastry case has cooled, what we're going to do is take our cubed cheese. Now I didn't talk about this earlier, you do need some cheese obviously. Don't think I added it to my, my list of ingredients for you. Now I'm using mature cheddar. Some people would advise using Gruyere, some people would advise using medium cheddar. I like the cheese to be nice and strong. You can use whichever cheese you want really. Two techniques to adding the cheese in here. We've got some grated cheese, excuse me, which will go on the top a little bit later. But then we've got some cubed cheese, which we're going to put in and around the bottom of the pastry dish now. Why do we do that? Well, the cubed cheese will actually stop all of the ingredients from sinking directly to the bottom of the pastry. It will kind of hold them a little bit. So you add some in there. Next step is to add our bacon and our leeks. Bacon and leeks are cooled quite nicely. What you want to do here is just get a spoon and start to kind of evenly distribute your mixture in and around the quiche. Now you've got all of your inner ingredients in there, add a decent handful of your grated cheddar all around the top. Then we start to add some of our cream and egg mixture. Just pour it in nice and slowly. Make sure you cover every single part of this dish. Make sure you fill this case up, because this is what you want to set. This is going to set your quiche. You don't have to do it all in one go. What you can do is give it a fill and then just leave the mixture to settle. When it's full, we'll be throwing this in the oven at 180 degrees for about 20 minutes. There you go guys, that has been in the oven now for about 20 minutes on 180. You can see all that lovely cheese that we put along the top there has risen to the top and crisped off really nicely. What you need to do now is leave this to stand for a good 10 or 15 minutes before serving, because the pastry in there is going to still be quite soft, still be quite brittle, and you don't want it to fall apart. So just set it to one side and it will start to settle down, and we'll be serving this up with some lovely veg and some new potatoes. Here we go everybody, we've allowed our quiche to cool down a little bit. It's still nice and warm in the middle, which is exactly how you want it. We've got some lovely winter vegetables here, some broccoli, some beans, some peas, some sauteed leeks. There's some lovely new potatoes here as well. Let me see if I can get this out in one piece. And here comes this piece of quiche. There we go, look at that. Cooked to perfection. Let's have a little taste. I'm going to give you guys a little close up here as well. So here we go. Got this lovely pastry around the outside, which is cooked beautifully. And as you can see, the inside there, look at those lovely flavours. And I'm breaking this apart, but the flavours in there are absolutely superb. And you know what? This meal, this meal has maybe cost something like £7 or £8 to make for the whole family. Perfect family feast. Enjoy everybody.